Would you say there's ever really a wrong choice? Can we go kind of off our path, I suppose?
I love that question. I will say no with a caveat because it's very, when you say wrong, I kind of think that can mean different things to different people. It's very subjective. Essentially, I believe that if you make a choice that doesn't serve you, like in the sense you make a choice, you try something, it doesn't work out, a relationship doesn't work out, a job doesn't work out, and you're like, well, I chose that and then I made the wrong choice. Knowing that things don't always work out doesn't necessarily, I believe, mean that it's a wrong choice. It's, again, going back to what is the lesson that I learned from that. And sometimes we have to go through those things in order to then get the lesson or get the clarity regarding like what we do want. I think one of the biggest things that always helps me to not be afraid of things not working out is to know that if I go for something and it doesn't work out, that's always going to give me feedback. It's always going to give me clarity about what I then do want. There's always a golden lesson there. And that's the thing that we need to recognize, and that choice wasn't wrong at all, because if it felt right in the moment, then it is the right choice, right? And usually it's only when we look back on things that we say, oh, that was the wrong choice because it didn't work out. But if in the moment it felt right and you went for it, then that, I believe, that was the right choice, because you cannot predict what's going to happen 100%. You can only look back and look at, okay, I tried that and now I realize, like, if I knew back then what I know now, obviously I would do it differently. But you can't ever have that. You can't know what's going to happen. So you have to trust that that you are making the right choices. If you are following your intuition, if you're following your values, if you're following what feels good, and if it doesn't work out, or it doesn't go the way you plan, then know that that is still guiding you towards where you need to be going 100%. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was Steve Jobs that says, "Don't ever settle," and certainly I can resonate with that in terms of career choices that I've made. I think sometimes we can try things on and they feel right in the moment, but then we learn so much through the process of that. And like you said, you always get feedback from any choice that you make. It helps you with that kind of self-awareness and knowledge, and say, okay, well, I like this, and this doesn't quite fit with me. So I think it's all a process of kind of learning and understanding, isn't it? It's just about reframing that choice in our minds as not ever a wrong choice, perhaps.
Yes, 100%, because the only time I think that where I mean, the important thing is to learn from the lessons, because if you don't learn the lesson, you may keep repeating that same mistake over and over again until you get the lesson. And so in that sense, there's something about, just noticing, like, oh, this keeps happening to me, or so that's the, instead of telling yourself I keep making the wrong choices, it's more about them looking at, okay, there's something I'm not getting. Like, let me look at that. Let me ask the question of, like, what's the lesson that I'm not learning? And as soon as you're open to learning the lesson, you're going to get it. And then, you're not going to repeat that again. So
Yeah. And is it always our place to kind of judge if someone is making a choice out of love or fear?
I think everyone is doing the best they can with what they know and what they've got. And it's very difficult to put yourself inside someone else's world and know exactly why they're doing what they're doing. So I think it is probably not helpful to judge, because everyone's on their own path, everyone's on their own journey, and um, sometimes there isn't a black and white. Like sometimes there is a gray zone where someone thinks they're making the best choice. You might look at that and say, I know there's a better way to do that, but I think we also need to let other people be able to make their choices and learn from them, rather than also try and impose and say, like, you're doing it wrong, or I would do it this way. Because again, everyone's on their own journey, and everyone's responsible for their own life experience, their own lessons. And so what I think is right might not be what is right for someone else. And so my view of what I believe is the right way to respond to something is my way of responding to something. And so I think it does become a little bit more, it usually leads to conflict when we look at someone else and say, you should do it this way because that's the right way. So we have to, I think, we have to respect that everyone's going to have different perspectives. I think obviously with something like parenting, that's where it can really get a bit complicated, because you want to do the best for your kids and sometimes make decisions for them. And at some point, there's got to be an allowance of allowing what the child wants to do to also be acknowledged, not just kind of, as a parent, what you think is always best. And that's not a smooth process. I think that that can be very, that's a journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's like a Zen or a Buddhist quote that says, if you think you're enlightened, go and spend a week with your family. Because I think it's all about these family dynamics that, whether it's a parent-child, whether it's a mother-daughter, whether it's siblings. I think sometimes because we are so close, I think that can kind of make it difficult to then kind of separate ourselves and say, well, okay, well, actually, no, I know you love me, but this is my choice, or I know I love you, and I have to let you make your own choices, and maybe even make your own, what I may perceive as mistakes. And that's the thing, right? I guess, like you say, it's kind of loving detachment, I suppose. Is that what you'd say? Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah.